50 psychology facts about boys. 1. Boys tend to have better spatial awareness and visual spatial skills than girls. 2. Boys often engage in more competitive play than girls. 3. Boys typically have better gross motor skills and physical coordination than girls. 4. Boys tend to exhibit higher levels of physical aggression than girls. 5. Boys generally excel in tasks that involve visual spatial reasoning, such as puzzles or construction. 6. Boys often have a higher pain threshold than girls. 7. Boys are more likely to engage in physical aggression rather than relational aggression. 8. Boys are more likely to suppress or hide their emotions, particularly sadness or vulnerability. 9. Boys often display a higher tolerance for risk-taking and thrill-seeking behaviors. 10. Boys tend to have a stronger preference for active play and physical activities. 11. Boys are more prone to developing neurodevelopmental disorders such as HE. 12. Boys tend to experience puberty later than girls. 13. Boys are more likely to engage in externalizing behaviors, such as aggression or rule-breaking. 14. Boys tend to have a stronger preference for large, group socializing and activities. 15. Boys are more susceptible to developing autism spectrum disorders. 16. Boys often excel in tasks that require abstract thinking and problem-solving. 17. Boys are more likely to engage in distraction or avoidance as a coping mechanism. 18. Boys tend to exhibit better spatial memory than girls. 19. Boys are more prone to developing conduct disorders or oppositional defiant disorder. 20. Boys often have a weaker sense of emotional intelligence and empathy compared to girls. 21. Boys tend to engage in riskier play and physical challenges to test their abilities. 22. Boys are more likely to experience externalizing disorders, such as conduct disorder or substance abuse. 23. Boys often have a larger social network with more loosely connected friendships. 24. Boys are more likely to externalize stress and display outward signs of frustration or anger. 25. Boys tend to engage in shorter and more direct conversations compared to girls. 26. Boys are more likely to engage in problem-focused coping strategies rather than seeking emotional support. 27. Boys tend to be more impulsive act before thinking in certain situations. 28. Boys are more prone to developing learning disabilities such as dyslexia or language disorders. 29. Boys often have a weaker sense of self-identity and may struggle with self-esteem during adolescence. 30. Boys are more likely to experience hyperactivity and restlessness. 31. Boys tend to have a stronger preference for hands-on or experiential learning. 32. Boys are more likely to engage in self-affirmation to protect their self-esteem. 33. Boys often exhibit higher levels of competitiveness and dominance in group settings. 34. Boys are more likely to engage in direct forms of aggression, such as physical fights. 35. Boys often have a harder time recognizing and interpreting subtle emotional cues in others. 36. Boys are more prone to developing sleep disorders, such as sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome. 37. Boys tend to excel in tasks that require focused attention and sustained effort. 38. Boys are more likely to base decisions on logical reasoning rather than emotions. 39. Boys often have a weaker preference for nurturing and caregiving activities. 40. Boys are more likely to engage in assertive communication rather than seeking emotional intimacy. 41. Boys tend to be more accepting of risk and failure, often displaying resilience in the face of setbacks. 42. Boys are more likely to develop externalizing disorders, such as substance abuse or antisocial personality disorder. 43. Boys often have a stronger interest in and aptitude for mechanical or technical activities. 44. Boys are more prone to developing learning disabilities related to language and reading comprehension. 45. Boys tend to have a more stable sense of self-esteem throughout adolescence. 46. Boys are more likely to engage in problem solving and offer solutions when confronted with challenges. 47. Boys often exhibit a higher tolerance for confrontation and conflict in relationships. 48. Boys are more prone to developing impulse control disorders such as gambling or internet addiction. 49. Boys tend to have a stronger interest in sports and physical competition. 50. Boys are more likely to seek emotional validation and support through shared activities rather than verbal communication.